Hey, how you doing? I'm Rory from Rate My Funeral. That was Rate, by the way. How you doing? Everything's good? Cool. Right, we're going to do a tutorial today, but before we begin with that, I was just going to talk a little bit about Infidio. I will say I'm not going to mention Infidio in this tutorial, apart from when I do. So I'm just going to start off, just a big thank you to everyone that's bought it so far. I'm loving the feedback. It's all good. The Pro version I am currently working on will be out really soon. The Pro version includes lighting and a few extra controls, and basically anyone that's already bought Infidio will get the Pro version for free when it's released. So that's something to look forward to. It won't be long. It's probably within the next couple of weeks, because it's almost finished. So yeah, it certainly won't be long. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. Other than that, I'm not going to mention Infidio. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, Infidio is the Infinity Studio product that I've created just to speed things up and make things easier, but I'm not going to mention it. What else? The last few tutorials I have been doing, I got a few bits of feedback on them, but saying that they were a little bit dreary, a little bit dull, so I'm going to try and make some jokes in this one, just to make it maybe not quite so dull. I'll struggle a little bit, because at the end of the day this is kind of geek territory, so I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to try and keep things fluent. I'm going to say as much as I can. No, I'm going to say very little, I think. And I'm definitely going to put in a good joke somewhere near the end. Right, let's have a look at what we're going to make. It's this dude up here. Was it up there? Oh, there we go. Right. Play. That was a crap joke, wasn't it? But there you go. Right, that's what we're going to make. RMF, that's my logo bursting out of a ball pit. This has nothing to do with anything, doesn't even really make much sense, but I thought it was quite fun. I thought it looked pretty groovy. In this, I'm going to try and cover everything that I've done here, including the compositing at the end in After Effects. So yeah, let's hop on in and see how we do this. Right, okay, so this is where we get warm and comfy, and we start doing tutorial stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is going to create the rubber ring. So that is actually, I did use a soft body rubberness thing on that, but you don't really see it in the video. But if something large was to fall on it, it would bounce off as if it was an inflatable ring. It is configured like that, and I'll show you how I did this. So firstly, I'm just going to make the torus a little bit bigger, and then we're going to make a duplicate of that. So to do that, you click, drag, hold control, release, and there you go. That's how to make a duplicate in one smooth move, and kick your microphone at the same time. Okay, so we've made a second one. We're just going to move that up a bit like so, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller, something like that. There we go, and that looks pretty groovy. That's a bit like a rubber ring kind of thing. Paddling pool, that's what I'm thinking of. Right, so I'm going to grab these two like this, hold control, click the other one, and we're going to place them into a ball object. That's under this little button here. If you hold Alt when you click that, it does nothing. If you have a single item selected and you hold Alt, it will put it in it. If you have two items, it does nothing. But I just learnt that just then. So let's dump that one in there, and we'll dump that one in there. If I put these the other way up, you can see what's happening here. The bottom one is having the top one cut out of it. Now that's how balls generally work, and that's how we normally use them. But in this case, I'm doing something slightly different. So I'm going to click on the ball, and under Boolean type, instead of A subtract B, we're going to change that to A union B. And what that's doing is actually, it's kind of cutting out the insides. So it's creating a single shape out of the two. We tick this box here to say create single object, and that way we're going to end up with one bit of mesh. Once we've done all that, we just click on the ball and then click here to make that editable, and there we have our rubber ring. So I'm just going to rename that, double click, and we'll call this rubber ring. I can almost type now. Right, that's that bit done. Now we want somewhere to put this. We want to put this on a floor. Now I promised I wouldn't mention it, so but I won't. But we're going to use Infidio. In this case, I mean, you could create the floor, you could set up a tag on it and do all of that stuff, but it takes so damn long, you'll be there forever. So you might as well use this and make it much quicker for yourself. Right, so I'm going to use the Pro version, seeing as it's almost ready, and just because it's got a few cool things to make things a bit easier for us. So I'm just going to dump that into the project like that. Again, these colors are because of my OpenGL issues. I have this a lot at the moment. I still haven't got around to sorting it out. I think it's possibly just a graphics driver issue, but when you render this out, you can see that that's all working fine, and the Infinity Studio is doing exactly as it should. The first thing I will do is going to come up to the render settings button here and press output and change this film aspect to 16:9. There we go, that just fits the screen a little bit better now. And it's what we're going to end up with. So that's brilliant. Okay, so we have our single object, we have our floor. I want to put this on the floor, so the way I always do this, just to make this quicker, is right click on the rubber ring, select simulation tags, rigid body, and then press play. Boom. Because the video is already configured for dynamics, that's now done. We can just press on this and we're pressing on the tag, and then we press set initial state. And then when we rewind back to the beginning, it's now permanently on the floor. Spot on. Okay, so now we'll just do the settings to make this into rubber. This was under, we could do it here, but this is easiest. Right, right click, simulation tag, soft body, like that. Click on the tag and then click on this soft body tag there. And you'll see here, we have some settings. Now these I've got to try and remember what it was that I did, and for that I can't. So structural, I think that we leave on 100. Shear I think I put to 0. Flexion I think I put to 100. And stiffness, was that 100? I think that might have been. So let's just press play and see what that does. Yeah, no, that looks good. We can test this with a bar. So if we create a cylinder, just move that up, press R to rotate, just turn that round, press T to grow it. Actually no, we won't do it like that, we'll do it in the controls and we'll just make it longer like so. And right click, simulation, rigid body, and press play. Boing. Ah, there we go, look, see, and that's made our rubber ring. How cool is that? So we can delete the cylinder, we don't need that anymore. Right, that's great. Fantastic. If we're worrying about the look of this, I'm just going to change the color of the studio quickly, because it by default comes out this blue, so I'm just going to change this to white. So we just click on Infidio, and then we have the options here just to change the color like that. There we go. Now if we have a look at this, we will see if we get too close to this, we get these lines. And now this is because of the number of polygons inside of this shape. Now if you have loads and loads and you're using this as a soft body, that's going to really hit your time, like calculation time. However, what you can do is put that into a HyperNURBS. So with it selected, press and hold Alt and click on HyperNURBS. There you go. And you see that adds some more geometry, but it's doing it at a different level to where the soft bodies are being calculated. But now when we render this out, you can see that the edges are much smoother. That's much nicer. Okay, so that's that bit done. But just for speed's sake, we'll just switch that off for the minute, and that keeps things running nicely while we're moving things around. What is next? Next, I think I am going to do the balls. Yeah, let's fill it up with balls. Right, the rubber ring. There's a change that we're going to need to do, but we'll come to that in a moment. We'll create a sphere. Boom, there it is. And I'm just going to move that up and press T and shrink that down to something like about, I don't know, that. Seems like a good size to me. Maybe a touch smaller, I don't know. Again, what you'll notice here, you've got loads of polygons inside this sphere. Oh, kick my mic again. But you don't really need them because of the fact that the sphere has this wonderful tick box here, render perfect. So basically, no matter how many polygons you have in there, it will always render a perfect sphere if you have this ticked. So for this, we'll put that to 5, and you'll see that it goes a bit funky there. But if you render that out, you'll see that it still renders it as a sphere. So that's great. So that means that we can create lots of spheres and it shouldn't hit the performance too badly. So we've created our sphere, so we're going to go MoGraph and cloner, hold Alt, and it puts the sphere into the cloner. We now want to create a grid array instead of linear. So we've got the cloner selected, we go to Mode, Grid Array. I hope I'm not going too fast for you, but my last tutorials seem to go on forever, so I'm trying to make this a bit quicker and just cover the important bits. So we've created this. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and move that up. Let's go into the top view, and you can see there's our sphere sitting over our rubber rings. So we're just going to pull that out a bit there, and we're going to pull that one out a bit there. Cool. We can then go back into the cloner, and these are the counts, so the amount of balls that are in each direction. So if we put that one up, you can see there we've added some more balls along the sides. If we put this one up, we've added more along the middle, and then this one is more kind of along the height. Now the height is could do with being higher, so we'll just drag that one up there, and we'll add a few more like that. That should be enough. That's quite a few. So if we just hit play, we're going to run out of time here. So I'm going to just put the number of frames up and press play. What? It didn't happen there. I haven't set dynamics up on the spheres. So we right click on the spheres and we do rigid body. Rewind, play. There we go. So now all of our spheres are going into our ball pit. And that is a perfect fit. It doesn't matter if a couple escape, it adds to the ness of it. So we'll just give those, we'll let them sit and settle a little. Cool, okay, and now once we've done this, so that we don't have this 106 frames of them all falling, if we click on the tag and go to dynamics, we can set the initial state for the balls to already be in the pit. Now when we rewind, there they are. Brilliant. Right, so we've created our rubber ring, we've created our balls. Now we want logos. So I'm just going to switch the balls off for a minute. The logo, I'm using a text logo. You could build like a cool logo or whatever and use this same sort of technique. However you want to do it. I'm just going to stick with text and do it like this. So I'm going to create a text object inside of my ring. That was a terrible thing to say. I'm going to create a text object inside of this object here, and I'm just going to put R. I'm going to do each letter individually because I want to animate them individually, and there's a kind of nice little trick that you'll see shortly on doing that. Now I'm just going to do a slightly funkier font. This one is good. This is the font I always use for that thing I'm not mentioning in video. Right. What's next? I've just noticed the Infidio backgrounds for this scene's a little small, so we'll just go to here and we'll just turn the floor scale just up a little bit. There we go, so that just moves away. Cool. That's just in case any balls roll off the sides. Right. So how's that looking now? Excellent, excellent. By the way, the lighting is already on. It's already done as part of Infidio. So just so that you see this, I'm just going to switch these off. If I go to lighting, this is Infidio's lighting. Right, so this is how it would be normally if Infidio wasn't doing anything. You can obviously go to lights and you can add different lights here. Here I've got a hair light above, a key light and a fill light already configured, and I can just switch them on. And at the moment, the default configuration for each of these is pretty good, so I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I haven't got to do too much. Right, let's see. We're doing our text, that was it. So we want to make sure I'm going to get all three letters in. So at the moment that's possibly looking a little bit big. So I'm just going to do this. Let's go into this view here and I can actually see what's going on. Just lift that up a little like that. There we go. Right, so we've created that. The next thing I'm going to do is create a circular spline. And I'm just going to center that out to the R. So we put the circular spline inside the text, just come down to here and just zero those out, and then that puts the circle on the R like so. Just take that back out of there and make the R a little bit, make the circle a little bit bigger. Right, again we're going to use a ball technique, but this time it's a spline mask, which is essentially it's a ball but for splines. So we place our text in there and we place our circle in there. Now what you can see here is that the text has vanished, but if we move this circle, highlight the circle and move the circle up, you'll see that the R starts to draw itself. Okay, so this is exactly what we're going to use to create the effect. Oops. So I'm going to animate that. I'm just going to go to, say, frame 20. Grab that circle spline, create a keyframe on the Y, and then I'm going to come forward to about 100. And then I'm going to move the circle spline up so that it's revealed the R. There we go. And then if we press play on that, you can see that that does that. There we go. So that's working fine. I'm then going to put this all into an extrude NURBS. Now, the problem that has happened here is that the circle is visible, which is not what we want. So again, we go to the spline mask, and you see by default this one's set to union, because it will basically make a spline into another shape. So that's handy if that's what you want, but it's not what we want. So we want A subtract B. No, we don't. We want B subtract A. There we go. I think it depends on which way up you've got these two, because that's A and that's B. So yeah, we are subtracting B with A. Yes, that makes sense, I think. Either way, there you go, it's building it. So that's cool. I am going to go to the extrude NURBS and put that out a bit, like so. This isn't quite fitting inside of our rubber ring, so we just need to move that in a little. What is next? We've done that, so now to do the other three letters, I'm going to use this technique. I'm going to dump this in a cloner. So cloner, hold Alt, bang, and that's now in a cloner. By default that's going up. We don't want that, so we're going to, with cloner selected, we're going to go to the Y and put that back to 0. And then we're going to move that along the X. Now, see, the problem we've got here is that it's going to be a bit too big, but luckily we can still just shrink the text down a little bit. That should be enough. That might mess around with our spline animation, so we just want to double check. Nope, that's still looking okay. But on the cloner we can just move this back a bit so it fits. Right, now obviously that's not my logo, so I'm going to create a copy and then another copy. Oops, keep that inside of that cloner. The middle one here will go into this and we'll change that to an M, and then the end one here will go into this and we'll change that to an F. There we go, and we can just push those away from each other a little and move the whole thing just over a touch, like that. There we go. Alright, so we now have our RMF in the ball pit. The reason I've done this in a cloner like this is just to save me having to animate 3 separate things, because now they're all animated. But we can actually do something here. I think this is one way of doing it. If we make this 30, so under the cloner and then transform, if we make that 30, does that do what I think it does? No, that doesn't do it, and they're also taking far too long, so I need to have a look at this animation. So forget that I've just said that. It's actually something else. let's fix the time. So at the moment, I'm going to go to customization, layouts, and then just change to animation. We can see here we've got our keyframes. This is one way of doing this. We can manually select these guys here and we can drag them out. I'm not going to do it like that again because I wanted to show you this specific technique. Maybe in this case it's not so, it's not so quick, but in other cases it would be. So, with the cloner selected, we're going to go to MoGraph Effector, and then we're going to use a step effector. Now we don't want it to affect the position, because if we skip into it, you can see that it's affecting the scale, sorry. But if you come down here, you'll see that there's actually a time offset. So we can put in, say, 20 in there, and then what that should then do, there we go, see, and that'll do one at a time. Like I say, you could just grab this one, move it over here, grab this one, move it here, and that will essentially have the same effect. But with this, it's all controllable by just changing one number in here if we decide that we want to actually make that 30, and you haven't got to drag everything around and do all of that. So that's why I've done it like that. This does cause a small problem that we'll come to in a little while, but it's not even a problem because we just fix it with 2 keyframes. So job's done. Right, let's see. We've got our text creating itself like so. I'm just going to put a cap on these extrude NURBS. So I've got a cap, fillet cap, and not 5 but say 2 with 3 steps. There we go. And what that does is it just gives a little edge, and you can see it's just picking up the highlight there. Excellent. Right, the next pro step is to give these rigid body tags just so that they interact with the balls. Always interact with the balls. Simulation rigid body, and then with all of those selected, we're just going to change the collision shape to static mesh. I think it's static mesh is the one we want. Right, oops. Now let's go back to customization, layouts, standard. There we go. We can see what's going on here. Right. Yep, that's all good. I've just noticed I've got a bunch of textures down here. If you ever notice that you've got lots and lots of textures, this is probably where I've been playing. You've got lots of textures and you're pretty sure you're not using them all, and you want to tidy this up, just click here, Function, and remove unused textures, and that kind of just gets rid of all the junk that it's not using. These ones are to do with Infidio, which we're not mentioning. Right, so let's have a look. We've got our ring, yep, that's great. So we're going to turn on our spheres, turn on this hyper NURB, and now this is probably going to run really slowly. But it's all kind of wibbling around and moving. You can see the tone on is moving. So there we go, right. So the R is going to burst out. Here comes the M. And here comes the F. And all of the balls are nicely bouncing out and rolling around. So that's all groovy. Then I think I'm going to go to about frame 125. Now let's make it 130. I'm feeling daring. 130, and then I want this text to all shrink back down again. So what we do is we go to the circle, and we grab all 3 of the circles. No, we don't. We just grab the first one. That's the point of using the cloner. We just grab the first one, go to coordinates, and we set a keyframe. And then we'll go forward 15 frames, because we want this to be pretty quick. And we'll just drag that down like that, and set another keyframe. Now, because of that effector, if we do just let that run, the M will go down, sorry, the R will go down, and that is it. Okay. I'm sure this is how I did it. I love this. I find these things. I do it one way, I'm sure I did, and then it turns out it's actually something completely different. So, forget I just did that. I'm going to undo. Oops. Undo, undo, undo. There we go. Skip back to frame 130 because we're daring. This is back to where we were. We're going to select all 3 of these circles. I could have sworn I let this do this for me earlier, but never mind. We've selected all 3 circles, clicked that one, go forward about 15 frames or so, and we're going to move them all down. Okay, and we press go. Sorry, we keyframe. Now, I can't help wondering why this is acting like this now. It's only doing that one. Ah, there we go. Right, no, here we go. It's kicking in now. This is what I thought. There's 30 frames between each one. That's right. Okay, I was just being impatient. Right, so 30 frames between each one because of our step thing. So just before the point where it does it, so say a frame 125, I'm just going to go to parameter under the step, set a keyframe, go forward 1 frame and just set that down to 0. There we go, that's fixed. That's how I did do it. Okay, so now when we watch this play back, and that should all go down. There we go. And it creates a nice little bounce of the balls where they were. Brilliant. Okay, so we have basically done this. So let's see. We're going to make this, what, 185 frames long? We'll do the job. Right. The next thing we want to do is a camera move. So just for speed's sake, I'm just going to turn off my hyper NURBS there. Yeah, and we'll turn off the spheres for the minute. Okay, so the camera, I need to create one. So I'll go up here, create camera, and put it as our view by clicking this little button here. Going to use something like a 50mm, just so we get a bit of depth going on. And I'm going to start it off over here. We're going to do this actually. We're going to put this cloner as the focus object. I'm just going to name these actually so we can see what this is. So this is the logo. These are the spheres. The spheres! And that's the rubber ring. We know that. That's cool. We're going to move the camera so it's off the screen. And set a keyframe. Bang! Okay, and then we'll come forward to about frame 50. And that's already out, so we want to be over there before then. So let's come forward to frame 30. There we go. So we should start to see these things move. So we'll place the camera there, set a keyframe, and then we'll move forward to about frame 130, and we'll just rotate around a bit. Looking up a bit so we get some of those balls in. Keyframe. So that's looking like, there we go. And then when that disappears, we'll have the camera maybe pan down a bit and zoom out and sit down here a bit like that. Okay, let's have a look, see what the camera is looking like. It moves around, it will see the R, the M, and the F all come out. That's pretty cool. And then the camera starts to move down as that goes. Lovely. Job's done. I can probably get away with being only 170 frames long actually. 170. Excellent. Turn all this stuff back on and let's skip into it. Okay, so that's looking good. And like in this, the balls are sitting on top. They get to the top and they do a little bounce. There we go. This is coming out better than my preview one. Oh, I like it. I might even use this as the preview one. The final preview one. We've got a couple of balls that are sitting there nicely on the M. So when it all shoots down, the balls will be left in the air and they'll just take a second to drop. That's cool. There it goes. Oh, I like that. That's cool. All right. So now we need to get some textures going on here. At the moment we have got some nice lighting, because that's done by the thing we're not mentioning in video. We haven't got to worry about that too much. In case if you don't have Infidio, or you're not interested in it, then and you are interested in doing this, then literally you just add lighting from there, add an area lights, turn a shadow on, and move it around and put it where you want, that sort of thing. But obviously, if you're doing that every single time, it just takes ages. So we'll just use this for now. Right. So let's create some plastics. The balls. I was going to do this slightly different, and I totally forgot about it. So this is gonna be a little problem that we have to overcome together. The spheres, I want them to be multicolored. Now you can do this using shaders and all of that sort of thing, but I'm not so keen on that. So I want a bit more control over it. So I am going to do it like this. I'm going to switch the camera off for the minute so that we can see what we're looking at. I'm also going to switch off all of the logo stuff like that, and the Hypernerves thing for speed. The spheres, if we skip back to the start, we need to go to the tag for the spheres, and we'll do that in a minute. Right, let's put this texture on this sphere here. So we're going to, first of all, we'll start off with like a fairly blue ball, like so. I'm going to turn off the specular because we've got nice reflections built into the scene already. Turn on the reflection and just turn that down a bit. We don't want too much, and we have to put a Fresnel on there, or Fresnel if that's how you say it. Don't like 13. Right. And that's our plastic. Plastic's quite an easy texture to create, really, isn't it? So that's now blue balls. So look at them. So they're looking pretty cool. However, I want different colours in there. So the way we'll do this is we'll create a copy of that in the same cloner. Now what you'll see this is doing is putting them all back up, and this is why I wanted to do this at the start. But we won't worry too much at the moment. Let's close down that material. We're going to grab this one, hold Control and make a copy. Double click on it. And we'll assign this to our second sphere, like so. And this colour we're going to make red. And there we go, we now have some red balls in there. We're going to do the same thing again, make a copy, and make a copy of the red one. Double click on that, assign that to the bottom one, and change this colour to a yellow, where I can't remember where it is. There we go. Haha. There we go. So we've got a yellow, and we'll do one more, which will be green. Same thing again. Double click, place it onto there, and put the green up, put the red down. There we go. We've made a green. Now, obviously, so the problem we've got is that some are sitting down there, some, and that's because we set the initial state, and then we've added more into it. So we just grab all 4 of those tags, clear initial state, and it puts them all back up. Press play, let them all fall. Now they're actually sitting a little bit too uniform, if we're honest. You see how they're sitting in lines? So let's fix that by going to the cloner, object, random. There we go. Press play. Look at that. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so just let them settle a little bit. We lost one. It's not the end of the world. Play. Pause. Right. And then with all these, we select all of these tags, and we go set initial state. There we go. And we've reset. We've set all of that up again, and the whole thing will now, you can see this is I'm pointing to it. What's the point of that? Up here you can see this is the camera where it's viewing, and now we've got all of these turned off. We'll turn all of these back on. There we go. Oh, and that's going to cause all sorts of trouble, but that's doing what we want it to do. If we just have a look, we'll see that we've got our nice balls. Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to create one more texture. I'm just going to copy the red one, I'm going to put that on our Hypernerd rubber ring. And I'm just going to make that a little bit more orange. Where's orange? Something like that. There we go. And the reflection, we'll just turn it up just a little bit, just so it's a bit different. The text, might as well stick with it. We'll just make a white version. Put that onto the cloner. And there we go, white. Right, there we go, we've textured it now as well. Let's hop into the camera. Okay. Look at that, that looks cool. Let's just have a look. So yeah, that's looking pretty groovy. Okay, so what else? I'm just going to turn on ambient occlusion because we've got these balls. It's quite nice if you've got ambient occlusion. It slowed down your render time, but it just gives you a little bit more darkness in between all of the balls. I think that's nice. That just saves you a bit of effort there. Right, so that's lovely. Also, I'm not so keen on the colour orange, so I'm just going to fix that a bit. It's a little bit funky. There we go, that's a little better, I think. Cool, okay. I'm also going to change this because we are rendering with the standard renderer. In R13, was it? They brought in the physical renderer, which in some cases is much nicer because you see where you've got these reflections. They don't look particularly good, and the reason for that is because the anti-aliasing is set to geometry. If we set anti-aliasing to best, you'll see that the reflections in look much better, but look what it does to the render time. And this is a fairly fast PC, so that's not so great. However, the physical renderer, I've found, even on its low setting, is not bad. So if we go physical, renderer physical, and go into these options, I'm just going to put it on progressive just so that you can see this, and turn on depth of field. Now if I just hit go, because we put it on progressive, it'll work from the top, just work its way down, and sort of each time it goes down, it'll just it'll chunder at it just to make it a little bit better each time. So obviously at the moment it's a bit grainy, but it will just keep working at it. See, it's done 3 passes, so it will just get better and better and better. And that's quite handy if you just want to quickly see how it's looking. Because it's got the built-in depth of field, which is really nice, we can select the camera, go to physical, and we can put in a custom f-stop. So I'm just going to do something ridiculously low, like 0.6, because there's not a huge amount of depth here. So I'm going to hopefully bring that not really out using that. And you can just see that that's looking pretty good. The progressive renderer is kind of only really if you're using stills, because you can just set it going, and then when you're quite happy with the final outcome, you can just stop it. So for this, I'm just going to set this to adaptive. Now your quality is this button here. This makes a difference in the render time. If you render this one out, so this is doing it at low, and it's not bad. I'll be honest, I think that looks pretty good. You know, with how this is going to be used, you get slightly better quality in your darker areas. It won't be quite so grainy if you put this up. But for what I'm doing today, this is going to be absolutely fine. And obviously you can put it on high, medium. If we just have a look at medium, you see the difference in the render time. See, it's a lot slower, but the quality is much higher, so it's the trade-off. So for this, we're just going to leave that on low. We're going to go to output. We change the res to film 720 and set frame range to all frames. And that way it's going to do the whole lot. Save. A lot of people use TIFFs and PSDs. I like PNGs. This is just my preference. PNG, I just like them. So I use PNGs. We'll create a folder for it. So these are obviously the ones I was playing with earlier. We'll create this folder called ball pit frames, whatever. No, I like the word sequence. There we go. And we'll put this in here. We'll just call it ball pit 01. Press enter. There we go, and that's put that in there. That's all I'm going to do for the minute. That's it. So we've got the camera selected, we've got everything turned on, we've done the texturing, we've done the movement, we've done all of that. So that's brilliant. We can just hit render. Now this will take a little bit of time, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to just sit and watch this rendering out. So we'll press a magic button and it will be all completed. And there we go, that's speedy rendering this. Right, cool, okay, so we've got our animation all rendered out, doing exactly as it should. Cool. So, right, what we're going to do, we need to load this up into After Effects. So let's get After Effects running. And close that. We will do import file, and then we'll go to our sequence folder, and we just need to open up the first one, and that will open up all of those PNGs, and we just drag that into a new composition, and there we've got our animation in After Effects ready. Obviously, to make it look a bit neater, we're going to add motion blur. You can do this in Cinema, but obviously it kills render time, so I'm just going to use Real Smart Motion Blur, and that just gives it that slightly more realistic look. So as it is fine. The next thing I'm going to do is add an adjustment layer and put in color correction curves and color correction tint. There we go. The tint we're just going to put about there, just so it doesn't look quite so shiny, and then I like to ramp this up a bit and this one down a bit, create a little bit of an S curve. Okay, I'm gonna get we'll put a vignette on there, so another adjustment layer. Select the ellipse tool, just double click that. If we press this button, that turns on so we can see what that's doing. Effect, color correction, exposure. We'll just turn that down a bit like that. Invert the mask, press F and you get feather. You can just feather that a bit. Maybe grab the mask and bring that in a little. What else did I do? Another adjustment layer, and I did, it wasn't an adjustment layer, sorry, it was a new solid. We'll get this in a minute. Here we go. New solid, and I did effect generate a ramp. And we'll just make this a bit smaller so we can see what we're doing. Going to make that radial, and I'm going to move the circle so it's kind of up there, and then I'm going to make the black a kind of blue, and make the white a kind of light yellow, something like that, and just move this in a bit. There we go, like that. And then you set this to multiply. There we go. And we'll just turn that down a little there. So we're only, opacity was T, by the way, gives you opacity pretty quickly, and that just gives it a bit of contrast going on. Quite like that. Also on the adjustment layer, no, this is how I did this. I created a new layer, adjustment layer, and then effect blur, and I did lens blur. I think, is that thinking about it? there it goes. Right, that's caught up. And then repeat edge pixels, so it just fills in the edges. And now that's obviously all blurred in the middle. But the way I like doing this from time to time is just create a rectangle, mask, and just put it through the middle like that. Actually, undo that. I'm just going to go a little bit higher. Put it through the middle, and then invert it. Go to the feather, press F, and then just give that a bit of a feather. And then it just gives it that kind of, anything that kind of goes in and out of this area, it just blows up quite a bit. It just makes it look a little bit funky. Just turn that feather up a little bit more. And that's pretty much all I did with it, really. And then you render that out. Add to render queue. H264 will do. Ball pit 01. We'll call this one ball pit, just so we don't get confused. Press render. And that's basically it. So that's now doing what it should. So there you go. That's that tutorial, and that's how you do it. There's a little bit of Infidio in there. I know I didn't really mention it much. But no, a few people have asked to sort of see it in action, so I thought I'd do a tutorial where I do use it. And I hope that was okay. Hello. And yeah, so that's basically it. We're pretty much finished. If you were interested in Infidio, if you go to the ratemyfuneral.com, you can find information about it there under products and then Infidio. That's, I think, everything. Feel free to go ahead and like the Facebook page, follow the Twitter, and all of that sort of stuff. And yeah, and as I promised, I'd put a joke right at the end here. So the joke is, why does Noddy wear a bell on his hat? 'Cause he's a